going to talk to you about the importance of diversity in the workplace. It's often been said that diversity actually increases a company's profits. Can I just see by show of hand how many of you actually believe this? Okay, so not everybody does, and I am not surprised by that. So we need to start off first by actually visualizing what we hear, what we see when we hear the word diversity. So what pictures come to your mind when you hear the word diversity? Is it picture number 1, where we have Caitlyn Jenner, who is now the face of transgender issues in the US? Or is it picture number 2, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, feminist writer and author? Or picture number 3, Emmanuel Macron and his lovely wife, who represent generational diversity? Well, I'll share a personal story. A few years ago, when I lived and worked in the UK, in a building of 400 people, where I was one of 3 black people, this is how I felt. So that's me in the middle, surrounded by people who don't look anything like me. And if you asked me what my picture of diversity was back then, I would have said a picture full of black people who look just like me. But of course, that is not what diversity means. None of those pictures on their own actually represent the true picture of diversity. So we need to assess our understanding and really see where we are in the spectrum of how we see things, where we hear this word. Then we need to get a new understanding where we can see in whole and not just in part. And how can we do that? By truly understanding what the word diversity means and looking at another word which has often been left out called inclusion. So the Oxford English Dictionary defines diversity as a range of different things, or in this case, people. And inclusion means the state of being included in a group. So if we put the two together, I've come up with my own meaning, which is basically taking a group of people who are different, putting them in a group, and making them feel part of the group. So how can we actually do that and embed diversity and inclusion in our workplace? Well, we can start by asking ourselves some key questions. For example, look at your teams, look at your organization. Why are certain people excluded? Why are certain jobs only done by a particular group of people from a particular tribe, faith, skin color? Could it be an unconscious bias? Or could it be that we are purposely excluding people? Or could it be all just a coincidence? Until we ask ourselves these questions, we'll never know the truth. Another thing that we can do is to modify our hiring practices. We can actually start to go into places looking for talent where we have never gone before. For example, a children's orphanage, where street children are taken, groomed, and educated to a high standard. And I've had the pleasure of volunteering at one place like that called Kinder Paradise in Pram Pram, so it does exist. And I would hire any of those children as soon as they're ready for the workplace. Or we could hire in parts of our country where we know that opportunities are limited. Or lastly, we could hire people with disabilities, because just because somebody is physically challenged or visually impaired doesn't mean they cannot contribute. So at this point, I'd like to recognize the efforts of Prince Kofi Amoabeng, former CEO of UT Group of Companies. But Mr. Amoabeng took the chance and hired a visually impaired man to the role of customer service officer, and that gentleman rose up the ranks to a managerial position. And his name is Cephas Tokonu, and here he is at work. You can't tell that he's visually impaired. And when I asked Cephas permission to share his story, he decided to come, and he's here today. So Cephas, could you stand up for everybody to recognize you? So that's Cephas over there. And as a leader of a team of 60 people myself, I can testify to the fact that my business profits have increased. I have 2 to 8 nationalities in my team at any given point in time. All my staff come from all 10 regions of Ghana. I have multiple faiths and religions in my team. Now, why is this important for us? Well, why should you care about this? First of all, it inspires creativity. When you have people from different backgrounds sharing ideas, it's nothing like you've ever experienced before. Secondly, it helps build your staff's global acumen. They get to be culturally sensitive and aware without even leaving their desks. And this prepares them for the future and to deal with the various clients or customers that may come across as they do their work. Also, it also promotes creativity and also access to languages. So when I've got to make presentations to foreign companies in Ghana, I take my native speakers. For example, I had to make a presentation to French companies in Ghana, and I took my native French speaker, because this helps break down barriers and helps with networking and further business. And lastly, what I'll say is that the war for talent is real. CEOs are looking for talent wherever they can find it. And also because artificial intelligence is taking over lots of automation jobs, even in PwC, we have robots doing tax returns in some offices in the world. So basically, CEOs need people with new ideas. And you can't find new ideas by recruiting people who are the same as you. You need to be diversified and you need to be different. We surveyed hundreds of CEOs globally. And what they told us was that diversity was important to them. They were looking for talent wherever they could find it, and they were sending talent wherever it would go. So what's the situation today? Well, in Ghana, we're as diverse as we come. We have different languages, ethnicities, cultures, and so on. And if we limit ourselves to where we are comfortable, we'll be doing our businesses, our country, and ourselves a very great disservice. Where does it all start? The change starts with you. When we realize that we're not that different from each other, that is when change occurs. I am a millennial on the days that I'm energetic and feel I can conquer the world. But I'm also somebody close to retirement when I realize that my working days will eventually come to the end, and it scares me. I'm also a stranger when I go to a foreign country. I don't understand the language that is being spoken. And I'm also a mother, a poor mother from the slum, who sits in Kolebu Teaching Hospital in the children's emergency ward, praying that my child will get well. Essentially, I am you, and you are me, and there is unity in our differences. Thank you very much.